I learned that my high execution strength was best used not for doing the work, but actually for quickly driving alignment within my team. If there's a problem, if there's an issue, if there is a conflict, then definitely there is a gap that is causing that conflict. And so as a leader, you have to make sure to close the gap or at least minimize that gap. Okay, I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but the more skilled and talented your team members are, the more conflicts actually happen because they're very smart people, they're very good individuals, they know what they're doing. Clash can happen and conflict can happen, right? And so you have to ruthlessly unify that talent. I'm going to tell you a truth that might sting, and it is based from my messy real life corporate failure. Now, early in my career, our team actually struggled with timeliness. I led 12 incredibly talented individuals, but only around 30% of them could actually hit their deadlines. And then later on, I realized it's not really because of a lack of skill or talent, but because of an invisible killer in our team. I learned that our killer was actually a lack of alignment. I realized that not everybody was fully aligned about the value of being timely. And so, in this episode, we are going to start with a four-part series on a topic that really talks about how you as a leader can form your team of talented individuals, into one unstoppable, cohesive unit. Hello, beautiful people. This is Love Ravina, a 28-year-old corporate leader and public speaker who is still learning out loud. And welcome to my messy, beautiful journey. This episode kicks off a special four-part series where I will be unpacking my personal learning and insights from the book UNIFY, Operating as One Cohesive Performance Unit. Now, this thought material was penned by my mentor, Mr. Florentino A. Hernando, the executive advisor and managing director of FA Hernando Executive Advisory. I call him Sir Fa, and most of the people that I know also call him as Sir Fa. And early in my career, I was actually part of the CEO Insights Asia ecosystem, and I have learned a lot from his wisdom. And I would say that this book captures the essence of my growth as a corporate leader, also being part of the ecosystem. And I'm so much excited and very, very willing and ready to share with everybody the lessons that I have learned from this book. If you are a high execution person, you know this truth. Our impatience can be both our gift and our curse. When I have a vision, I want to see it happening, and I want to see it happening right now. But when I started leading 12 incredibly amazing and talented associates, that gift turned to be a liability because my impatience has led me to actually become more and more unwilling to wait for my team. And so, in that phase of my career, I noticed that I have become more and more impatient. And at the same time, it sort of was viewed as me being untrusting of my team because every time, let's say, I delegate a task or assign a task to them and I see that they're not doing it as fast as I can or as soon as I can as well, then I would do a very classic mistake that almost all leaders maybe would actually do. I would do the job for them. And that actually, again, kind of gave the impression that I did not trust my team enough and that I did not trust that they can make mistakes and grow and learn from those experiences as well. And so I remember having this one on one conversation with one of the associates, and they were courageous enough to actually point that out in our one on one meeting. They told me, Miss Love, I am not sure about you, but I am really someone who does not work as fast as you can. And sometimes I feel a lot of pressure just keeping up. And I just need you to give me more time. I need you to guide me more as well because I'm really willing to do my job and to excel at what I am supposed to be doing. And so that conversation kind of flipped something inside my head, and I realized that, right, as a leader, my job is actually to meet my team where they were, not where I want them to be. And this book, Unify, actually shows a concept or talks about a concept, the performance multiplier, where Serifal highlighted that this is actually about, as a leader, your role is not to be better than your team members, but actually your role is to be able to take advantage of the individual strengths and talents and gifts of your team members, and then make it into something that actually will benefit the entire team. So unify that force. And we are going to talk more about that in this specific episode because section 1 of this book talks about optimization. And we will be unpacking the truth or the mindset truths about leadership and becoming a performance multiplier. So let's dive right into it. So I learned that for us to achieve more meaningful things, I need other people. And you see, a team can actually exponentially grow or expand what one person can do because a team has more skills, more brains, and more different combinations. And so, as a leader, our job is to actually unify that force. And in section 1 of the book, it talks about optimization. So, basically, this is focusing on the principles and mindsets necessary for alignment, establishing the why behind the unification. And it has 3 essential chapters. Let me read that for you. Chapter 1 is performance multiplier. It actually emphasizes the power of teams. Chapter 2 is performance skiller. So it identifies misalignment as the silent enemy of all teams. And chapter 3 is performance accelerator. So basically, it frames alignment as the primary catalyst for ensuring that you are able or we are able to unify our team. And so I am going to share with you my biggest lessons in each of the chapters and at the same time how I have applied them to transform my own leadership as well. So let's start with chapter 1, performance multiplier. So again, here we see teams as the multiplier, right? So this chapter argues that teams don't just contribute to efforts, but they also function as performance multipliers. And so when we actually collaborate, we combine different skills, we combine different ideas, we combine different perspectives to achieve more than what we can do alone. And so the lesson that I have learned from this chapter is that my biggest lesson was realizing that my impatience or my curse was simply a misdirected energy. I learned that my high execution strength was best used not for doing the work, but actually for quickly driving alignment within my team. And of course, organizing my team by combining their strengths. Imagine I had 12 associates that time. So that's like 12 brains, 12 unique skill sets, 12 different perspectives. And that's really when I realized and understood the power of more brains. They say like two brains are better than one. How much more 12 brains, right? So I gradually learned how to take advantage of that reality. And at the same time, the true realization of my aspirations actually hinges not solely on my individual efforts, but again, taking advantage of my team members. And so when I had to move to, the next level in the corporate ladder, then I was able to like manage 20 around 20 associates this time. And so that kind of the lesson I've learned from being a supervisor back then was really very, very powerful and impactful for me as a division head right now, because I am able to see the benefit and advantage of unifying these 20 talented and incredibly skilled individuals. And so I think that's the very essence of chapter 1. It's realizing that as leaders, our role is not anymore as being an individual contributor where we focus solely on what we can do, but really redirecting our energy into ensuring that we are able to lead our teams and unify the differences, and at the same time take full advantage of what each individual member can offer. Now, for chapter 2, this is about the performance killer. Basically, it talks about misalignment as the enemy of every team. And this chapter really explicitly identifies that misalignment is the unspoken killer of team performance. It argues that misalignment arises from what we call a knowledge gap. So basically, it is the discrepancy between what the leader, like you, the leader, knows and what the team knows. And you see, especially that when I started leading like big teams, I realized that the bigger your team is, the wider or the bigger the knowledge gap is as well. Because as a leader, we have a vision. Like we know that we want things to happen in certain ways, maybe, or like we want to accomplish something. But like the more members or the more associates that you have, the more direct reports that you have, the more challenging it is to translate that vision into messages that actually will resonate with each of your team member, and at the same time ensuring that it will truly land. And so the bigger the team is, the bigger the gap could be as well. But don't get me wrong, even though, like, let's say you have small teams as well, knowledge gap can also be very, very evident. And so I have learned, like, as I was reading this chapter, I have realized that I also had my fair share of, oh, I thought moments. Like, I remember having conversations with my associates, and then they were telling me about their issue or problem about something. And then I'd say, well, I thought that you knew about this. Like, I thought that you understood what I told you before. And then in that conversation, they'd tell me, not really, Miss Love. Like I feel like I did not really understand, like fully grasp what you were trying to say. And I was like, oh, okay. So like then that was like an opportunity for us to talk about it. But my point is that there are really moments, or there are really times wherein as leaders, because I'm not sure about you, but like for me at least, I would admit this. There are really times that I would feel a bit impatient, and just the moment I'm done sharing like my vision to the team, then that's okay, and then I'm ready to move to the next big thing, or like next thing that I need to do, right? But as leaders, we really have to make sure that we close that knowledge gap. I remember there was one time we were navigating this new project. It's a new service that our company is going to offer to our clients. And my team specifically was not part of the planning, or like the initial discussion, even the kickoff meeting for that specific project at the onset. And so we did not know what was really expected from us. And then suddenly I was invited or called to be part to like this one meeting. And then one of our Japanese stakeholders was asking me questions about like why my team is not doing anything to support the company for this new service. And I was like, what? I did not know about that. Like, I was not part of the planning. I was not like aligned about the expectations and the purpose of that project or service as well. And so, although I want to blame someone because nobody really told me about it, but I could not do that because I learned that as a leader as well, my job really is to close that gap. And so from then on, I realized, okay, every time something new things will happen in the company, I really need to know, and I need to have access at least to maybe the master file, or like our single source of truth, or I need to keep myself updated or posted of what's going on so that I can share that with my team, because that specific experience has created a very unfounded and uncomfortable pressure for my team. But it is what it is, and we just had to navigate that situation at that time. And so from then on, I requested access to all of the files, the communication platforms. I requested to be part of every meeting when we talk about that specific project, because although I learned it the hard way, but misalignment can really cause a lot of pressure, a lot of mistakes, even from the team. And at the same time, misalignment can, like, worst case scenario, can cause the team to not trust their leader because they'd feel like you are keeping information from them. And, as a leader, you really have to be transparent with your team, because in that way, they'll also be transparent with you as well with their challenges. And so, from that experience, I had this reframe that every time there is a conflict, there's definitely a gap. Because I learned the hard way that if there's a problem, if there's an issue, if there is a conflict, then definitely there is a gap that is causing that conflict. And so, as a leader, you have to make sure to close the gap or at least minimize that gap, which actually would lead us to the third chapter of section one, which is Performance Accelerator, or the five C's of purpose. Now, this specific chapter argues that alignment is the catalyst and the performance accelerator. It actually introduces five alignment builders for purpose. So we have clarity, concise, communicated, common, and commitment. And for me specifically, because I learned like these concepts at the not really at the onset, but like when I started becoming a supervisor, I was part of the CEO Insights Asia, and I have learned a lot from the wisdom of Surfa and the other CEOs and corporate leaders as well. And I started applying these concepts as well on my team or in my team. And at the same time, it kind of allowed me to help my team become more aligned of what we want to really get done and what we want to see happening in our team. And so to build a very sustainable engine, I had to apply the five C's in my team as well. So starting with clarity and concise, like to be more specific, like right now, we have this very clear mission and vision for my team or for my division. And at the same time, although I was able to share that or communicate that with my team, I also made sure to kind of make it concise, like easy for them to remember. So we use three words to describe our purpose or our goal for this fiscal year, and that's workforce, process, and service. Workforce, process, and service. And so every time we meet, we talk about these three things, and every time we make decisions, and if we are, let's say, navigating challenges or we want to do something, we have to check, is this initiative or is this project aligned with our goals or focus for this fiscal year? Workforce, the process, and our service. If not, then we will deprioritize it. If yes, then we will tackle and take on that specific initiative. And the next C's would be communicated and common. Again, one of our rituals or one of the rituals that I have implemented in my team right now is during our weekly meeting, I always repeat our mission and vision and our strategic goals or focus as well for the fiscal year. And because I meet with supervisors and managers of the different departments in my division, and so in our weekly meeting, I do that. But when I meet with the entire division on a monthly basis, I also communicate that mission, vision, our strategic goals, and even our focus for the fiscal year. And we keep on repeating our mission and vision. And sometimes just maybe, like my other associates would feel like, oh, come on, Miss Love, we already know that. You no need to repeat that, blah, blah, blah. But if you watch my previous episode, I talked about how repetition and retention is very important. If something is important, it must be repeated. If something is important, it must be repeated, right? And so that concept is also something that's very much applicable and communicated in common, like the third and fourth C's of the performance accelerator. Because as leaders, really, our goal and our mission is to constantly and consistently communicate with our teams what are the things that are important, and at the same time inculcate or integrate that into our day-to-day conversations or interactions with our team. Because when our team is focused on their responsibilities, like the tactical things that they're doing on a day-to-day basis, sometimes they forget the value and they forget the reason, basically the why of what they are doing. And so leaders should serve as anchor and at the same time a lighthouse for the team as well, reminding them, okay, this is where we are heading, but we also have to be grounded on our values. We have to be grounded in our purpose, our mission as a team. So that's why I repeatedly communicate these things to my team and every interactions that I have. And of course, the last C is commitment. So it's very important that we get the commitment, or basically not just requiring agreement from the team. Like it's different when you say, do you agree with our mission and vision or our core values or purpose, versus will you commit or will you stay committed to making this mission and vision, our purpose, our goals happen. And so, one way that I actually check commitment within my team is, let's say, every time I send out a newsletter, like that's this one thing that I recently implemented, a newsletter, I always ask for my team's insights and their commitment as well to supporting the initiatives or the projects that we are working on. Because if my team cannot clearly articulate or cannot clearly share their commitment, then there is a problem. There is a conflict and there's a gap, right? Because it come to think of it, if you cannot commit to something or to someone, then there is something going on. Like something's not right. Okay. And so in teams, it is very dangerous to just let it be. Okay. For me, I'm not sure about you, but really for me, I feel nervous and scared every time my team cannot articulate a specific action or commitment that they will be doing to support the division, to support their departments, or to support other associates in the division or in their department as well, because that means they have not fully grasped or understood what is important and what they should be doing. And so there's a need for alignment. Okay. So commitment is very, very important. And so my challenge to you is, try to think of a major goal that your team is currently pursuing right now and see if you can trim that goal into, let's say, 2 to 3 words or phrases or a simple statement. Okay? Because if you cannot do that, then I tell you, you have a clarity problem. If a goal or a purpose is really, really clear, then you can easily trim it down, make it really, really simple. Okay? Because if you want your team to remember things easily and quickly as well, you have to simplify it. Now, another big thing that I also learned in my journey as a corporate leader is that when you establish alignment with your team, of course, if there's alignment, everybody in the team knows what they need to do, and everybody is basically so focused on what they should be doing, right? And then from that focus, they will experience a lot of new things and they will be learning a lot of new things as well. So from there, they will grow. So I'd say alignment would lead to growth, but growth actually would sometimes lead to misalignment. Why? Because your team has grown. So, meaning to say, they have experienced or interacted with problems that did not exist or they didn't experience in the past when you were doing that alignment with your team. And so they grow and learn from that experience, and that new found learning, newfound growth, or newfound experience actually can create more gaps. Because by that time, everybody in your team has grown. And so it will lead to another misalignment. And so if that happens, your role as a leader is to make sure that you and your team recover fast. Okay? You need to recover and realign. Okay? Do another round of alignment. So, one thing about alignment is that it is not just a one-time meeting or a one-time call, one-time conversation with your team, but basically alignment is an ongoing process. Because again, alignment leads to growth, growth leads to misalignment, and misalignment should lead to realignment. So it's really an ongoing process. It does not mean that I've met with my team once. I have shared with them our purpose, our goals, our strategic focus for this year or for the next 3 years, and that's it. No, it's not like that. It does not work that way because we have to understand that we evolve as humans. We learn a lot, we experience a lot, and our problems get bigger and bigger and bigger as well. And so you need to be very open to the possibility of realigning constantly with your team as well. Okay, so I think those are just the key, not just, but those are my key lessons or learning so far from section one. And now that we have established the mindsets, essential mindsets for unifying a team, then I believe we are ready to basically wrap up and summarize everything that we have learned so far. So, my biggest lesson again from section one optimization is that you cannot simply hire talented people and expect things to just happen. Okay, I think this is one of the biggest misconception about working within a team because we assume, right? We think that because our team members are very talented and very skilled, then they can figure things out on their own. I mean, that's a possibility, but really if you let it to be just like that, it will create a lot of knowledge gaps or like a lot of issues or problems within the team. And so our primary role or function as a leader is to ruthlessly unify that talent. Okay, I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but the more skilled and talented your team members are, the more conflicts actually happen because they're very smart people, they're very good individuals, they know what they're doing. And so clash can happen and conflict can happen, right? So again, there's a gap amongst them. And so you have to ruthlessly unify that talent. And remember, the invisible killer for team performance is really misalignment. And so the cure is relentless alignment and intentional focus on the purpose. So by driving clarity and ensuring common understanding within your team, and of course, ensuring consistent communication, you turn a group of people into a cohesive engine for success. So remember, alignment is the catalyst that turns groups into high performing units. So there you have it, everybody. That's section one of Unify. And of course, I really want you to also learn from the book itself. And so we are actually giving you free access to the ebook. All that you need to do is just comment Unify, and we are going to give you the link of the ebook as well. So thank you so much, Sir Fa, by the way, for letting my listeners have access to your ebook as well. And so I really encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity, and just comment Unify, and I'll be sending you the link of the ebook so you could read it and at the same time share it with your team members as well. Now, in the next episode, we are going to talk about section two of the book. And this section actually now talks about frameworks. Section one is about mindset. Section two is about frameworks, basically turning that mindset into specific actions so that you will be able to unify your team. So until next time, let us keep showing up, speaking up, and leading boldly.